Adira stood in front of the mirror, smoothing the lace sleeves of her wedding dress. She had dreamed of this day for so long, but now that it was here, her stomach was full of nerves. The garden was set up perfectly, the flowers, the chairs, even the weather was just right. Still, she couldn't shake off the strange feeling in her chest. Her fiancé, Darren, had always said his family would come around, but they hadn't. From the beginning, they treated her like a stranger who didn't belong. Darren's mother, Gloria, never smiled with her eyes. She asked questions that felt more like interviews than conversations. "So, how exactly do you plan to support yourself in 5 years?" she'd asked Adira once over dinner, ignoring Darren completely. His sister, Naomi, was worse, sharp-tongued and always watching Adira like a hawk. They said Adira was hiding something, that she was too private, that she didn't talk about her childhood or share enough family stories. But Adira had her reasons. She just never thought it would cost her everything. Adira and Darren had been together for 2 years. They lived together for over a year, went to couples therapy before it was even necessary, and thought they were doing everything right. Darren defended her at first. He'd said, "They just have trust issues. They were like this with my ex too," until they realized she wasn't a threat. But deep down, Adira knew the truth. They were never going to accept her. Still, she loved Darren, and he loved her, or so she believed. The ceremony was small, set in the garden of an old estate. White roses lined the path to the altar. Guests whispered excitedly as the music began. Adira smiled nervously as she stepped forward, her heart pounding. Darren was waiting at the altar, looking handsome and nervous in his navy blue suit. They had written their own vows. As the officiant asked the crowd the traditional line, "If anyone objects to this union," someone from the back yelled, "She's already married to me." Gasps spread through the crowd like a wave. The voice had come from a man standing in the back row. He wore a wrinkled suit, one shoe untied, and his shirt half tucked in. His face was unfamiliar. Adira had never seen him before in her life. Her mouth opened slightly in shock. "What?" she whispered, almost to herself. Darren turned to look at the man, his face instantly draining of color. Then, slowly he turned back to look at Adira. His eyes were cold, uncertain. The pain of that look hurt more than the man's words. "I don't know him," Adira said, her voice barely steady. She took a step toward Darren. "I swear, I have never seen that man before." The man, who would later be known as Marcus, marched forward with papers in his hand, waving them like a flag. "I married her in Florida, 2016, he announced. "She never divorced me. She left. This wedding is illegal. She's committing bigamy." The crowd was silent. Adira's hands began to shake. Gloria stood slowly, her lips curling into a smile. Naomi leaned over and whispered something in her mother's ear before smirking at Adira. Darren didn't say a word. He looked at Marcus, then at the papers, then back at Adira. "What is this?" he asked her quietly, but his voice was full of doubt and something worse, disgust. Adira's voice cracked. "I don't know him. This isn't real." But no one moved. Marcus waved what looked like a marriage certificate and said, "You can check it yourself. I've got the proof." Gloria said loudly, "We told you she was lying about her past." Naomi added, "She's been hiding everything since day one. We tried to warn you." The moment felt like a bad dream. Adira could barely breathe. But she wasn't as surprised as she should have been. Gloria and Naomi had been asking questions for weeks. Odd, specific questions about her past, her family, her travels. Darren even told her once, "They're just doing a background check. Don't take it personally." But Adira had taken it personally. She knew something was coming. That's why she ran her own background check, to make sure everything was clean. And it was. But her gut told her to go further. She reached out to the county clerk in Florida, the exact place Marcus now claimed they got married. She sent in her details and asked them to check for any marriage under her name. The reply came back within a few days. A marriage form had been submitted under her name, but it was rejected because the identification documents didn't match. No ID verification. It was a fake. Someone had forged it. The marriage never went through. She printed everything, saved emails, and kept it in her purse, just in case. And that wasn't all. A week before the wedding, Naomi had come to their apartment to help Darren with decorations. She left her iPad behind. It was still logged into her email. Adira hadn't meant to snoop, but something pushed her to open it. That's when she found them. Emails between Naomi and someone named Marcus Tate. One email had the subject, Wedding Day Script. She clicked on it. Inside was a full plan with lines for Marcus to say during the ceremony. Adira took screenshots of everything. They weren't just suspicious. They were planning to ruin her. Adira had built her own file, pages of screenshots, emails, and even a letter from the Florida county clerk. She also got a signed statement from her friend in Florida, who confirmed seeing Marcus around Gloria's house months before the wedding. Just in case, she had also filed for a restraining order against Marcus, fearing the worst. Now, standing at the altar, accused in front of everyone, she reached into her purse and pulled out that file, the one she had prepared just in case this day came. Her voice was clear, even though her hands were shaking. "This man was paid to be here," she said to the crowd. "Everything he said is a lie, and I can prove it." Gloria let out a laugh, cold and sharp. Of course she'd say that. But Adira wasn't talking to Gloria anymore. She turned to Darren, walked over, and placed the folder into his hands. "Read it," she said softly. "All of it." Darren looked down, confused, and opened the folder. First, the letter from the court clerk in Florida. Official letterhead. Signed. Time-stamped. Then the email trail between Naomi and Marcus. Then the screenshots, the script, the payment sent from Gloria to Marcus labeled consulting through Venmo. Darren's hands began to shake. His face turned pale again. But this time it wasn't confusion. It was realization. He looked up at his mother and asked, "Did you do this?" Gloria didn't answer. She turned to the guests and said loudly, "She's just trying to cover up her lies." Adira raised her voice now, firm and unbroken. "If anyone wants to see the truth, it's all there. There's even a police report and a restraining order." That was when Marcus, the fake husband, began to back away. People turned to look. He stepped out of the tent, then broke into a run. Gasps followed him out. The officiant looked completely lost. Some guests looked stunned. Darren just stood there, the folder still open in his hands, his mouth slightly open, not saying a word. Gloria and Naomi walked out slowly, their heads high, but their eyes wide. She didn't cry either. She stood at the altar for a moment, looking at Darren. He didn't speak. He didn't follow his mother, but he also didn't come to her. He just stared at the pages in his hand, silent. So she walked to the reception tent alone. The cake was there. The food was still hot. The chairs were still set. She sat down, took off her heels, and ate a slice of the cake she had paid for. Alone. If they thought they had broken her, they were wrong. The war had just begun. That night, Adira went home alone. Her wedding dress was still halfway unzipped. Her makeup had smeared under her eyes, and her hair was falling out of the elegant bun she'd spent hours getting done. She sat on the edge of her bed, still in the dress, staring at the floor. Not crying, not moving, just frozen in a kind of silence that felt heavier than tears. Her phone sat beside her, still silent. No missed calls. No messages from Darren. Nothing. At 6 a.m., she checked her phone again. Still nothing. No apology. No explanation. But what she did see made her stomach turn. Naomi had posted a black image on Instagram with white text. "Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies hurt more. Hashtag family first. Hashtag truth wins." The comments were full of people asking, "Are you okay?" or "What happened?" One comment said, "Proud of you for standing up." Standing up for what? Adira's hands trembled as she scrolled through. They were twisting the story already. Around 11 a.m., a knock came at the door. She looked through the peephole. It was Darren. He looked rough. Eyes red. Suit still wrinkled from yesterday, no tie. She opened the door slowly. "Can I come in?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just stepped aside. He walked in quietly, then sat on the couch. The silence stretched between them for a long, aching minute. "I didn't know," he finally said. She nodded, but didn't say anything. "They told me they were just looking out for me," he continued. "That they were doing a background check." She looked at him, eyes sharp. "You believed him. You looked at me like I was filth." Darren didn't argue. He just nodded slowly. I froze. I panicked. I didn't know what to believe. She walked to her bookshelf and pulled out a thick envelope, copies of everything. She dropped it onto the table in front of him. "Then you should have asked, not stood there while I drowned." He rubbed his face with both hands. "I want to fix this," he said quietly. "I've cut contact with them, at least for now." He asked if they could get away, take a trip, clear their heads. She stared at him. "Did you tell them what they did was wrong?" she asked. He hesitated. "Did you yell at them the way you stared me down yesterday?" His silence was the answer. She stood. "Then we're not running away. You can't fix this with a vacation." That week, Adira started getting messages. One of Darren's cousins messaged her, "I'm sorry. I think you should know they're telling people you forged the file, that you're trying to frame Gloria." It wasn't over. Not even close. Adira couldn't believe it. They were still trying to destroy her. She hadn't even had time to recover from the wedding disaster, and already rumors were spreading. Then it got worse. Her boss called her one afternoon, voice tense. "Adira, I wanted to check in with you personally before this reaches HR," she said. "Someone sent an anonymous email with serious accusations, claims that you have a criminal record, fake references, even a name change." Adira froze. Her boss added, "I don't believe it, but I wanted to give you a heads up. Do you want to pursue legal action?" Adira said she'd think about it. She hung up, fists clenched. Enough was enough. 3 days later, Naomi sent her a text. "You should really stop pretending. You've already done enough damage. If you want this to go away, meet me. Just us. No drama." She showed the message to Darren. He looked alarmed. "Don't go," he said. But Adira needed to. She needed to look Naomi in the eye and hear the truth with her own ears. She chose a public place, a diner off Route 59. Crowded, bright, safe. Naomi walked in like she owned the place. She wore sunglasses indoors and carried a smoothie she clearly brought from somewhere else. She slid into the booth across from Adira and smiled, like this was just a casual catch-up. Then she leaned in. "You're not going to win," she said calmly. "We protected Darren. You embarrassed him. You humiliated our family. And now you want to act like the victim." Adira didn't flinch. She kept her phone recording, hidden in her purse. Naomi continued, "You think some file with screenshots makes you look smart? You look desperate." Then Naomi slipped. "Marcus was a friend of a friend. We paid him, but he wasn't supposed to actually show up. That part, that was all him going rogue." Adira leaned forward. "You emailed him a script." Naomi smirked. "So prove it." But Adira already had. That night her phone rang. It was Marcus. His voice was shaky, nervous, maybe drunk. "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't know they'd take it that far." Adira's grip tightened on the phone. "You shouted I was married to you in front of everyone." He sighed. "They told me you were dangerous, that you ruined Darren's business." He continued, "Gloria said you were going to drain his money. I didn't want to do it, but I needed the cash." Then he paused. "I still have the messages. I didn't delete anything. Naomi's threatening me now, but I'll send them to you. All of them." Adira hung up and exhaled deeply. She gathered everything, his emails, call logs, screenshots, the audio from the diner, and printed them. Then she contacted her lawyer. This was no longer just defamation. It was criminal. Conspiracy, identity theft, harassment. And best of all, Marcus was ready to testify. The game had changed. Adira thought things would finally settle after Marcus sent everything. But she underestimated how far they were willing to go. One night, she got an email from a recruiter offering a high-paying marketing job in Miami. She hadn't applied for anything. Curious, she checked the recruiter's notes. The contact who referred her was listed as L. Stevens. It didn't take long. Naomi's middle name was Lorraine. Her full name was once listed on a fake consulting profile. Adira played along, scheduled a fake Zoom interview, and who showed up? Gloria, in a blazer, pretending to be a corporate HR director. Adira recorded the whole thing. Gloria asked her for private details, financial records, criminal history, even her credit score. "We take these things very seriously," she said, like it was a Netflix scam series. When it ended, Adira contacted the actual company. They had no idea who Gloria was. That same night, Marcus called again, panicked. "They found out I sent you the messages," he said. "Gloria keeps calling me. She threatened to expose my sister's past if I don't retract my statement." Then came the shocker. Naomi used your real ID. She got it off Darren's laptop before the wedding. Adira sat frozen. Her real identity had been used in the forged Florida marriage application. They had stolen her information, weaponized it, and almost destroyed her life. A few days later, she received a PDF in her inbox. No subject line, no sender. Inside were screenshots from a burner phone. Naomi and Gloria, planning every step. The line that chilled her blood. "I don't care if she ends up in the psych ward. Darren deserves better." The betrayal ran deeper than she ever imagined. But she wasn't alone. A woman messaged her on Instagram. "I dated Darren once. Naomi did this to me too." That woman wasn't the only one. Naomi had targeted every serious girlfriend Darren ever had. One by one, they came forward, sending statements, screenshots, even voice notes. Adira's lawyer moved quickly. They filed both criminal and civil cases. Identity theft, harassment, emotional distress, and conspiracy to defraud. Gloria tried to settle. She offered a large sum to keep it out of court. But Adira refused. "I don't want their money," she told her lawyer. "I want the truth on record." Darren messaged her a few days later. "If you go through with this, my family will never speak to me again." She replied, "Then choose fast." 2 weeks later, at a family fundraiser, Darren stood in front of the same people who once judged her in silence. "At my wedding, a man claimed my fiancé was already married," he said into the microphone. "It was a lie. My family hired him. They forged documents. They tried to destroy her because they couldn't control me." Gasps filled the room. Naomi tried to interrupt, but it was too late. The truth was out. Darren finally stood up for Adira, not in private, but where it mattered. Later he asked, "Can we fix this?" She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She said maybe, but not now. And this time, she walked away with her head held high, not broken but free.